What's up guys, Tommy Bowie here from Movie Rewind. Welcome to another video, and today I am creating a Spider-Man trilogy. Now, the thought process behind this video is that for quite a while now I have sat there and thought, you know what, if I was going to make a Spider-Man trilogy or a series of Spider-Man films, what would I actually like to see? What would be my dream scenario? And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a video similar to what I've done with a Doctor Who series, where I create a Spider-Man trilogy. Now, a few disclaimers before we get into this video. Firstly, I'm not a professional writer or producer or anything like that, so please bear that in mind. Secondly, this video is just supposed to be a bit of fun. You know, it's supposed to just be a bit creative, be a bit, you know, just a bit fun, so bear that in mind. And thirdly, please feel free to comment what you think of my ideas and share your own ideas as well. I'd always enjoy hearing you guys' opinions, so please feel free to share. Now that all of that is out of the way, let's get into it. So firstly, I've laid out some trilogy details. These are just basic points which would appear throughout the trilogy. So firstly, Peter Parker would be Spider-Man. He'd still be in high school and he's working as a freelance photographer for the Daily Bugle. So kind of basic stuff really. The love interest for Spider-Man would actually be Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat. Now, I think that Black Cat is a very underrated love interest for Spider-Man, and I kind of would have it in the same vein as a Batman-Catwoman relationship, where there's a lot of flirtation between them, but at the same time, Spider-Man knows that Black Cat is still a thief. You know, she's still a villainous character, so he would be cautious about fully trusting her. Aunt May would be the primary guardian for Peter. In this universe, Uncle Ben, he's already been killed and Peter is already Spider-Man. I feel like we've seen enough incarnations of Uncle Ben get shot and the spider biting Peter, so I don't really think that we need to see it again. I would make sure that the Daily Bugle plays a very prominent role in the trilogy. Characters such as J. Jonah Jameson, Robbie Robertson, Betty Brant and Eddie Brock would all be featured, kind of like the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire. I think that the Daily Bugle, that setup, is actually got a lot of interesting characters, so I would definitely include the Daily Bugle more. And in this universe, the first film would start off with Peter having been Spider-Man for just 3 months, and he is in his final year of high school, so it's still relatively early days. This would be around the time when Spider-Man is starting to gain a reputation. He'd start appearing in the Daily Bugle, but, you know, Peter's not been Spider-Man for very long, so he still has a lot to learn about being a superhero. So I've included Peter's relationship with characters. So firstly, we've got J. Jonah Jameson, editor of the Daily Bugle, you know, employs Peter Parker as a freelance photographer. Now, I would actually add some development to this character. I'd actually go into the reasoning of why he despises Spider-Man, and that's due to the fact that his wife was killed by a masked figure, so he resents people that hide behind masks because he just thinks that they're above the law and that they don't actually have the courage to reveal their face when they are committing what he sees as violent crimes. So Jameson would actually be quite a sympathetic character. He wouldn't just hate Spider-Man for the sake of it. There would actually be quite a lot of reasoning behind it. Felicia Hardy is the love interest of Peter Parker. She is a student at the high school, but at night she's a villainous cat burglar known as the Black Cat. Now, the Black Cat doesn't actually need the stuff which she steals. She does it because she loves to do it. It's the thrill, it's the adrenaline rush she gets. So she also enjoys a flirtatious relationship with Spider-Man, and definitely in the first film, Peter Parker and Felicia Hardy would be unaware of each other's secret identity. And finally, we have Eddie Brock, a reporter who works for the Daily Bugle. Now, obviously, I'm going to go into more depth about why Eddie Brock would be such a prominent character later in this video. But for the main point of the character is he wants to make a success in the world of journalism. He despises Spider-Man because he's always making a fool out of him, and he doesn't like Peter Parker either. He has an issue with Peter Parker for much the same reason. So anyway, they're just a few characters that would interact with Spider-Man throughout this trilogy and would play quite a prominent role in the trilogy as a whole. So now we delve into the first film, and I've chosen to call it The Spectacular Spider-Man for the simple reason, I adore the Spectacular Spider-Man TV show, so why has that name never been used in a film before? Now, you may have noticed I have taken a lot of inspiration from Spider-Man animated series and various comic books, so yeah, I've taken inspiration from that. So the first film would just be a more laid-back adventure. We would see Peter trying to balance his life with the responsibilities of being Spider-Man and just being a high school student. This would be where he first encounters Black Cat as she is stealing, and there would be clear chemistry between them. We would also look at Peter taking photos of Spider-Man for J. Jonah Jameson, who despises Spider-Man, and it would be revealed that Jameson hates Spider-Man so much that he's actually funding an experiment where a volunteer, Mac Gargan, would be fused with the powers of a Scorpion. Jameson's logic is that Scorpion would actually be a real hero, someone who could help bring Spider-Man to justice, and obviously because Scorpion doesn't wear a mask, that would mean that he is more accountable for his actions. However, as the film progresses, it is clear that the experiment was unsafe. Scorpion becomes increasingly unhinged and eventually goes insane, taking out his anger on innocent people and Jameson himself. And by the end of this film, Spider-Man would have to team up with Black Cat and Jameson in order to defeat Scorpion once and for all. So it wouldn't necessarily be a film which is breaking any boundaries. I think it would, if I had it my way, it would just be a fun, laid-back Spider-Man adventure, with Scorpion being the main villain, because I think Scorpion is a villain who could definitely become quite an iconic character for modern audiences. So that is exactly what I do with the first film. So the second film would have two main features. The first feature, as you may have noticed from the picture, is it would have Chameleon as the main villain, because I think Chameleon is a very underrated Spider-Man villain. And I think that the Spectacular Spider-Man 2 would take on the tone of a more kind of thriller, espionage type film, because Chameleon is obviously a master of disguise. So in this film, it's set a year after the previous film. Peter is still learning as Spider-Man, but he's a lot more confident than he was previously. The film would open with Spider-Man saving the astronauts of a space crash where a mysterious black ooze attaches to him. So Spider-Man fans might know where this is going. This would of course introduce the symbiote and would introduce the black suit Spider-Man. So that would be one of the main features of this film. Peter getting the black suit, and we would slowly see his personality change during this film. Now, I've included this for the simple reason I think Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire's final film, is an underrated Spider-Man entry, but I always thought that it just had too much in it for its own good. So that's why in the Spectacular Spider-Man 2, this film would primarily focus on Peter Parker becoming a darker character as the alien symbiote takes hold of him. So he would also be battling the Chameleon, who would emerge in New York City, and his primary motive is to assassinate the mayor of New York City. He's basically a terrorist for hire. That's basically who the Chameleon is. Now, as Peter grows increasingly darker, he begins to take it out on those around him, such as Black Cat and also Eddie Brock, who is usually, made to look an idiot by Spider-Man, but with Spider-Man having the black suit, Eddie Brock is made to basically be incredibly humiliated and embarrassed. So basically, by the end of this film, Aunt May would have suffered a heart attack due to the actions of the Chameleon. So Spider-Man would decide to take his revenge, and this would end with Spider-Man brutally beating Chameleon close to death. I think that would be quite a shocking thing for audiences to watch, this usually very optimistic character becoming incredibly dark and literally almost killing one of his opponents. And Peter would be so shocked at how he brutally attacked the chameleon that he finds the courage and the strength to remove the symbiote once and for all. However, when the symbiote is removed, it falls into the hands of Eddie Brock. So that would leave the film on a cliffhanger. So The Spectacular Spider-Man 2, it would focus on Peter Parker becoming a darker character. It would be a film where audiences would be screaming for Peter to rescue his soul, to, you know, part from this alien symbiote which is slowly warping his mind. And it would also feature the Chameleon as the primary villain, just because I think Chameleon is a very interesting and unique Spider-Man villain. And finally, we have The Spectacular Spider-Man 3, the conclusion to the trilogy. So, following on from the previous film, Eddie Brock would have become infected with the alien symbiote and he would have become Venom. Now, in terms of tone and style, this film would be a psychological thriller. The majority of this film would be dedicated to Venom making Spider-Man's life a living nightmare, hurting him both physically and mentally. So, as I said, the primary villain of this film would be Venom, but there would also be a secondary villain who would appear in the film called Hammerhead. Hammerhead, a rising mobster in New York City who's determined to make New York City his own. Spider-Man fans will probably know Hammerhead. He's not exactly a major Spider-Man villain, but that's why I think he would work in this third film, because obviously Venom is the primary villain, Hammerhead would just be the secondary villain. Spider-Man and Black Cat would discover each other's identities in this film, and they would actually declare their love for each other. It would no longer just be flirtatious. There would actually be some genuine feelings between them. Peter would be pushed to his limits by Venom. You know, the villain will be threatening everyone he loves. And in the final act, Venom would actually team up with Hammerhead in order to kill Spider-Man once and for all. So it would kind of be this major team up where Spider-Man and Black Cat have to team up to face the forces of Venom and Hammerhead. And at the end of this film, Spider-Man would actually be able to defeat the villains with the help of Black Cat, though she would actually be killed by Venom. She would sacrifice herself to save Spider-Man. So that would actually end the trilogy on a very emotional note, that Peter has lost the love of his life, Felicia Hardy, and the Black Cat would be killed, which obviously that would end the trilogy on quite an emotional note, but I actually think that it would be a good rounding off of the trilogy. You know, it would mark the end of that blossoming relationship which has been building up throughout the trilogy. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. Now, as I said, this wasn't necessarily going to go into great detail. This was just saying that if I was in charge of making a Spider-Man trilogy, what would I do? And as you can see, I'd make it a lot more grounded and down to earth. You know, it wouldn't feature any other Avengers characters because I just don't think that's necessary whatsoever. It would feature characters which we haven't seen before, such as Black Cat and Scorpion, Chameleon, Hammerhead. And plus, I think that you could do the Black Suit Spider-Man and Venom story justice. But I think playing it out over 2 films would actually work a lot better. You'd have a lot more time to develop these characters, and the pacing, I think, would be a lot better. So anyway, that is what I would do if I was creating a Spider-Man trilogy. As I said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please feel free to comment your thoughts down below on what you think of this trilogy, or whether you have any ideas on what you would do, because I'd love to hear your opinions. And I will see you in another one. See ya!